Next Radio 2018 with Broadcast Bionics. Next Radio.
I'm the last on, you know that. So once I've finished, obviously you can hit the bar. So for the first hour of my talk, I'd like to... so very quickly, when I spoke to Matt about this, and he said, hey, come and talk about the Strictly theme, which we'll get onto in a minute. I went, yeah, of course, that's a really great idea, Matt. And of course, then I had to come and do it. James, I think, or whoever built it as what's next for composition. So I thought, well, I came here. It's a building that's about the future. It's about what's next. It's about innovation. So then I completely went off on a tangent, and you'll find out why in a minute. So I'm going to skim through a lot of these slides very quickly and get through the narcissistic stuff about who I am and why I'm here, just so you know why I reached the point I probably reached. This will make sense in a second. This is a piece of music that will make sense in a minute. It's written by a computer. It's written by AI. I put it right at the start because at least then I know the sound's working. No disrespect, of course it was going to be working. So very quickly, who am I? How did I get here? It's a question we all ask ourselves after big events, or we're doing a radio show at 5 in the morning, or whatever it may be. That's Depeche Mode playing at my school back in 1983, I think it was. They're wearing the blazers from our school. I got involved with helping set it all up. It really set me on the road of buying synthesizers, getting involved with music, loving music. David Bowie, of course, was all part of that in the day. That's me in 1983 with the synthesizers I bought with my mate John, and that's me now with the same synthesizer that I still have, the Sequential Circuits Pro one, and I love it. Moving on from that, that's a recording studio which during the late 80s I trained as a sound engineer with Barclays Bank of all people. But in a traditional studio, obviously, cutting tape in an analog world, a fabulous world where I learned a lot about audio. In 1992, I went to a show called The Big Breakfast, and for 2 years I was a sound engineer on that show. Had a lot of fun. I wore white jeans and Timberlands. Big mistake, probably. Various people on that show went on to do other things. Gabby Roslin on the left there, TV presenter. The guy on the right with the ginger hair is just moving to local radio, I think, not sure. And that's me drunk on a beach in Inverness with the same guy and another team. That was a show. For 10 years I worked with Chris Evans, did the Radio and Breakfast Show, the Virgin Radio Breakfast Show. It was an experience. And then currently I'm working with a music library called No Sheet Music. They're part of a company called Wise Buddha. A lot of you will know them, a lot of you won't. So I'm now involved in things like metadata and lots of other exciting things that library music entails. But this is what we're here to talk about. From about 2001, when we were all famously sacked from Virgin Radio, I went into writing music for TV. Teamed up with a guy called Josh Phillips, who is a phenomenal musician and makes me look very, very good. And that's a bunch of the shows that we wrote music for, co-wrote. Wade talked about this, and it's very important, the two of us writing the music together. Wade, who was talking about brainstorming. In the top left-hand corner is a logo for a show called Strictly Come Dancing. It's gone around the world. It's gone to America. It's gone to a load of other territories. Some of them have taken that music that we wrote. Some of them haven't taken the music that we wrote. This is the music that we wrote for that show. Oh, or is it? Sorry. So what's next for composition? Well, I'm going to pick up on that in a second. But moving on from this... Sorry, so this is what happened to me. Sorry, I'll pick this up. So when we were talking about what's next for composition, I was waiting for a plane. And I was talking about AI. I don't know why. I was talking about AI to my wife. Why she's still with me, I have no idea. And this came up on my phone as I sat down in my seat in the plane. Now, I know it's a big thing at the moment, the Elon Musk conversation, the podcast that Elon Musk just did with Joe Rogan. But it's that whole thing of I looked and I went, I'll talk about AI. I'll talk about whether computers are going to take over and whether my job as a TV composer is in jeopardy. That'll be a good thing to do. That will take less than 18 minutes, 14 now. So this is the Strictly Come Dancing theme tune, just in case you don't know it. So that's the theme that we wrote back in 2004. Seems like a long, long time ago now. And I wanted to what I was going to do is take you through a little bit of the history of how we ended up writing that theme and some of the processes. And again, going back to Wade, who was talking about brainstorming. So a lot of the things he said were absolutely the mindset and the approaches, I think subconsciously, as we wrote this piece of music that we used. Certainly napkins. Napkins are great, aren't they, for ideas? So we were approached by the BBC, obviously. At the time, I worked with a guy on The Big Breakfast called Richard Hopkins. He approached me, again, as we all know, our industry is based on who you know and who you've worked with and whether you've been good with them or bad with them and whether you've built any relationships. Richard phoned me. He knew that I was writing TV music by around 2003, 2004. And he said, we're doing a new show for the BBC. We'd done a few shows together, me and Josh, not many. But this was the first one where I got this call and thought, this sounds like it's going to have some money thrown at it, to put it bluntly. He said it's called Celebrity Come Dancing, which at the time there were shows called Celebrity This and All Star That. And I said, that sounds like a terrible idea. I think it's going to be awful. He said, yeah, we're going to get celebrities dancing with professional dancers and it's going to be great. And I just thought, I'm old enough to remember Come Dancing on the UK TV. I used to sit and watch it with my mum. And I just thought, that's a really poor idea. But away we went. We were going to pitch something in. And at the time, I think Bruce pitched a piece of music, a few other people. And going back again to Wade's brainstorming talk, we sat with a blank piece of paper, as anyone would with that piece of music. We immediately said Latin. Latin was the type of music that we were thinking of. We thought we'd go down that road. It's sexy. It can be up tempo. It can be down tempo. It's just got a great vibe. So what we did was we went away and found the drum music for a tango. We didn't play anything. We just went on the internet, as Wade said, and found the drum music for a tango because we didn't know exactly what the drum music for a tango was. And we just did it to force ourselves to do something, to go down one road. That was the initial kind of part of the music that started. The other big part of the brief, and whenever you're asked to do big TV themes, certainly in an entertainment style, in this style of television, is a call to action. If you're in the kitchen and you hear the music, you immediately know that show. You immediately know it's on. There was a lovely interview with Tony Hatch, who is an octogenarian now, I think, famous TV theme writer, did Neighbours and Crossroads and a load of others. He did an interview. And he said the secret with a good TV theme is it needs to be fatal. It needs to have a fatal sound to it or a fatal opening. And they said to him, is there a modern piece of music, a modern TV theme that you can think of? And he said, yeah, the Strictly theme, which I'll take that every day to have Tony Hatch say that about something that we wrote, which was lovely. So I'll play you the first iteration, it's a very early iteration. You'll hear some of the ideas, that fatal opening's there. Well, I'll play it to you. It's called You've Been Tangoed, obviously, because it was a tango. Here we go. A bit of level. Fairly nasty. It's a fairly nasty piece of music. Now, I obviously don't have any of the notes that we were sent at the time, but I know there would have been a few things that were said about that. I don't know what you might have in your mind. It had the opening, it had the stab opening, and that hasn't changed. What it didn't have was any excitement, really. It's just sort of, it sounds a little bit like a keyboard demo when you listen to it now. And of course it was. It's all written with software. There are no real musicians on that at all. It was a drum package called Superior Drummer or something like that, and you just use samples. Josh Phillips, who I must mention again, who co-wrote this with me, is a genius, and he and I kind of fashioned these things together. But you can see on the screen, that's kind of the basic Logic screen, the software screen that we would have used to get that up and running. So a couple of things would then have happened. That would have gone back to the BBC. They would have come back and said, try this, try that. It needs more excitement. The one thing with this music, it needs to jump out of the speakers. It needs to go, 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 and entertainment music. And as radio people, there's nothing better than starting a song like, I don't know, Reef or something, where there's just a big guitar or a big drum hit or something straight off the back of a link. It's fantastic. And this sort of music is exactly the same. So we would have gone away and started tweaking it, and you'll hear some extra bits in here. So we've started adding things now to try and get that kind of magical excitement, the Saturday nightness to it, all the things that you want it to have, so that anytime you hear it, it's instant. So this is Tango version 2. The final version was version 8, but after this, it's only probably incremental changes you start making. So you end up at 8, but by about 3 or 4, you're pretty much there. So a couple of things in there. There's the hey, which is me. Thank you very much. Because I'm in there and Josh is playing and everything. I'm like, I've got to do something, dude. And things like bell trees. And another thing in there is there's some applause. You can't really hear it, but right underneath everything, there's just a but it's just low enough that it's not really part of the music or not an effect. It's just an ambience. All that twiddly stuff that's going on that didn't make it into the final thing, that's Josh, and that's me leaving him to it for a few minutes, making a cup of tea and coming back and going, stop that. Josh plays with a band called Procol Harum, so Josh knows all the chords, arrives with all the chords in a big bag and pours them out onto the floor, and I go, no, we just need B minor, F sharp, A, that'll do strictly, that's fine. So I leave him to do that, and then invariably any producer goes, strip all that out, it's just got to be much, much simpler. The one thing with that piece of music was, and I can remember the conversation, they came back and said, we're just not getting the top line. We're not feeling the top line. What are we going to sing? What are people going to remember? And of course, that pretty much was nearly there. We just stripped off that shonky brass top line and ended up with the notes that everybody knows now, that top line everybody knows. I played it earlier on. It's not on another slide. I won't bore you with it. That was the kind of base of it. So what I did was, and with the last 5 minutes, I tried to find some software that could potentially rewrite that for me now. I mean, it's 14 years old, that piece of music. So was there any software that could just have a go at it? And I found this thing called Amper. It's very, very basic. And there's something called Flow Machines, which is a Sony-based thing, which is much more advanced. This is the 1.0 of this talk. So when I get to the 2.0 and we ever do this again, it'll be a lot better. So this Amper software, you just go on it and you just kind of make some decisions and let the software get on with it. So this is me just clicking around the screen, and I chose, you get a playback sequence up, and then you put an arrange page in, and then you start deciding the kind of ideas you want. So I call it Strictly-ish, Come Dancing, I think. And then you choose, it's very, very basic and fairly restrictive, but I thought it'd be interesting to see even if it could just give me something in that world. Strictly's in B minor, it's at 92 beats per minute. That was for America, it was slow when we first wrote it. America wanted it speeded up. So we would go on here, 90s pop's the nearest I could get to on that. And then we go in and you go, I'll go for exciting, and I'll go for some pianos and some strings at 102. B minor, etc., etc. And so Amper came back with that, and it sounds like this. So it's pretty dull. It sounds like Doctor Who or something, probably. No disrespect to the Doctor Who theme. I love that bit of music. It sounds slightly more scary than anything else. So, of course, the problem with this piece of music is where's the top line, and we're going to remember that. So what I did was I took that and I put our Strictly brass over the top of it, just to see if I could never work with Josh again, maybe. Who knows? I don't think we're in trouble. But so this is our top line brass with that on the back, and I've had to play around with it a bit, otherwise it really does sound like everybody's drunk when they played. So there you go. Make of that what you will. There was a while ago at Radio Days, I think it was in Amsterdam, maybe before that, and Ben Cooper from the BBC said, if your job can be replaced by a computer, change career. I don't think I'm in trouble just yet. Just moving on from that at a slightly higher level, this is a bit of music that was written by this flow machines, this Sony flow machines, and what they did was they fed in the Beatles. They went very high. They raised the bar very high. Let's feed the Beatles songs into it, see what it comes back with, and see how close it can get to the Beatles. So this is, I will play only a little bit of this because it's. So this is all software. This is all AI writing this piece of music. So that was a guy called Benoit Carré, I think, a French guy. And as I say, you know, if you listen to that, it's interesting. It sounds a bit like the Travelling Wilburys. It sounds a bit like the Beach Boys. It sounds potentially like the Beatles. It's a bit like Friendly Fires, a bit like Röyksopp, some of the new, you know, some more contemporary artists. What's interesting, of course, is that those artists may well say they were influenced by the Beatles. So the software is potentially aping what humans do, but it ain't there yet. It just ain't there yet. So what's next for composition? Are the robots going to take over? Well, it's an interesting thought, and one maybe you can take with you. I think based on that attempt, not anytime soon, certainly. So I think we're all right. We'll go back. Sorry, hang on a minute. So Audio Networks is one of the biggest libraries, music libraries that there is, and ubiquitous. And their Director of Channel Strategy said they have been looking into AI for metadata, which is a brilliant thought for AI. But the other thing, and he quotes, is it's an ethical point of principle for us. We want to have composer creativity at the core of what we do, which I think is a really nice thing to say, but you can bet your bottom dollar that the day computers make more money for people than composers make more money for people, we'll all be out of a job, all composers will be out of a job. It's as simple as that, it's business. So the robots taking over could be good, of course. So content recognition on YouTube and stuff like that is a good thing. It's a great thing, certainly for rights holders. We've just had a big EU copyright directive. You know, get the thumbs up from the creators, and thumbs up from the EU. So yes, it could be a good thing in certain respects. Can you sue a computer? That's the other problem we've got, that if the computer does write something that sounds like Ed Sheeran, who obviously spends a lot of time in court at the moment, will he want to sue the computer or the composers or the coders? So take that with you and mull that one over. That's a whole other conversation, I think. And sex, the great thing about music, obviously, is that we are far from computers pushing our buttons. You know, the love and loss and all the beautiful sort of empathy that we have with each other, it just ain't there. There's just no connection. It's never going to be there. The computer doesn't have the empathy with the person that's written the song. We may well see a time when there are rooms full of people stood watching a computer just play live on its own on a stage. And if you've ever been to a David Guetta gig, we're nearly there, I guess. So what's next for composition? Well, the pub. And I go back to Wade's conversation, which was, there's the inspiration. The pub is great. I worked on a radio show with Chris Evans. Anybody that knows Chris Evans will tell you. We used to go down the pub a lot. Some of the ideas were great. Some of them were shocking. But it is a great place to go. And I will paraphrase the brilliant comedian Bill Hicks, who said, if you think that mind-expanding substances have done nothing for the world, nothing positive for the world, take all your records and your CDs and your tapes and burn them. Because all those people were off their faces when they wrote that stuff. He said the Beatles were so high they even let Ringo sing a couple of tunes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan. What was that time period from them saying, hey, pitch us an idea, to them going, it's locked, it's on the show?
Not long, maybe 3-4 weeks, maybe.
Okay.
I think. Yeah. Difficult to remember.
That's a short period of time.
It is. TV music, there's no time these days, and this was 14 years ago. TV music is 8 seconds, and you've got 3 days. Back then it was, hey, 30 seconds, how exciting.
And have any networks taken it but like badly messed with what you did?
No.
Are they not allowed to?
I think I've heard some sound alikes where they might have gone into Pro Tools, I don't know. Not with our stuff, somebody else's.
Yeah.
But No, I don't, you can't. You're not allowed to.
Brilliant. Dan McGrath, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.